Listen, Disney gave us something groundbreaking. Their first Latina princess who you might know as Elena of Avalor. But instead of getting the Cinderella-level treatment, she got tucked away into a forgotten channel slot and a dress that barely made it into the Disney store. So what happened? Why did Disney fumble the bag on this one? Today, we're diving into the truth behind how Disney failed their first Latina princess. From corporate strategy to cultural missteps and everything they won't tell you. So let's get into it. What even was Elena of Avalor? Why did Disney treat her like a test run, and why do fans still say she deserved better? Elena of Avalor was a 2016 animated series that aired on Disney Junior. Not Disney Channel, not theaters, not even Disney Plus, but Disney Junior. And yes, that already says a lot. She was introduced in an episode of Sofia the First where it turns out she's been trapped inside a magical amulet, then she gets freed, returns to her kingdom, and becomes queen, well, technically, crown princess. But she runs the place together with her grandmother because her parents were murdered by an evil sorceress named Shariki. So before she even became the crown princess, Sofia the First and Elena of Avalor had to fight Shariki in order to get the kingdom back. And to be honest, her character was strong. She was brave, compassionate, made hard decisions, and tried to lead with empathy. Like, she wasn't just doing princess stuff, she was actually running a kingdom. She had magical responsibilities. It was giving young queen energy, like what Elsa thinks she is, Elena actually was. But despite all that, Disney just kept her locked in the for kids only box. And that brings us to the real issue. You see, Disney never set Elena up for success. From day one, they treated her like a side character in her own legacy. Putting her show on Disney Junior already told us who they thought she was for. And I'm not knocking kids' TV, but let's not pretend there's not a difference. Moana got a full movie, a $150 million budget, global release, songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and merch everywhere. But Elena only got a 9 a.m. time slot after Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Like, can you see the difference? And it gets worse, she never got an official coronation, and you know how that's a big deal in the Disney world. Every princess that gets inducted into the lineup has a whole ceremony at the Disney parks. Elena never got one. You know who did though? Sofia the First. The same girl who literally passed Elena the amulet. Like, make it make sense. It's like Disney wanted the credit for diversity without actually doing the work. They created this beautiful, complex Latina character, then locked her in the toddler section and moved on. And fans actually noticed. People online still ask, wait, wasn't she a princess too? How did she disappear that fast? The answer is simple. Disney didn't push her, they didn't market her, they didn't back her the way they did with other princesses. And when you don't give a character a platform, no matter how good they are, people usually forget that's how it works, which is exactly what happened to Elena of Avalor. Here's the thing about representation. It's not just about slapping a brown face on a character and calling it a day. It's about depth, intention, accuracy. And with Elena of Avalor, Disney kind of gave us representation. They threw in some Latin flavor, a little mariachi music here, some sugar skulls there, magical jaguars flying around, and expected us to clap. But when you market someone as your first Latina princess, you better come correct. Because there's not just one Latino culture, there are dozens. And instead of honoring one with intention, Disney took a shortcut. They watered it down so it could be universal, aka safe. And in the process, they erased the very thing they claim to be celebrating. Meanwhile, when you look at Encanto, you'll see that's how you do it. Like, Encanto was grounded and that was real. It had cultural fingerprints on every single scene. Coco too. Both of those were bursting with heritage. You could feel it. But with Elena, you couldn't even tell where she was supposed to be from. It was all just Latin-coded background noise. So when people say Elena was Disney's first Latina princess, yeah, on paper maybe. But in practice, she was more of a placeholder, a brand move, an aesthetic. And that's not representation. That's exploitation dressed up in a ball gown. Let's talk about the merchandise. When a Disney princess really makes it, you know there would be signs, toys, dolls, costumes, lunchboxes, you name it. It's not just marketing, it's legacy building. And Elena barely got the shelf space. Disney never pushed Elena when it came to merch. And that's how you know they weren't serious. No dolls in major stores. No Halloween costumes flooding the aisles. No glittery backpacks or notebooks or princess party sets. You had to go online, dig deep, or go international just to find basic Elena toys. And even then, they were low budget, like Dollar General type rollout. Listen, I'm not saying that there was no merch at all. I mean, there were a few compared to the other princesses. Even characters like Merida, who didn't even have a long-running show, got a whole coronation, dolls, and castle sets. And do you know why? It's because Disney didn't see her as a moneymaker. Because in their eyes, ethnic doesn't sell unless it's backed by a blockbuster. They didn't invest in a movie, so they didn't invest in merch. And without merch, she didn't exist to kids outside of the few who actually watch the show. It's a cycle. No movie means no hype. No hype means no product. No product means no visibility. And no visibility means another forgotten princess. And that wasn't an accident. Disney knows how to sell anything when they actually care. They just didn't care enough to sell Elena. Because despite all of this, despite the lack of promo, the weak cultural focus, the trash merch, people still loved Elena. Here's a hard truth nobody really wants to admit. Disney played it safe with Elena. They didn't push her because they didn't want to risk anything. Look, it's not the first time they've done this. Every time Disney steps into territory that isn't white, they start getting weirdly nervous. Like, okay, let's do a diverse character, but let's not go too specific. Let's not offend anyone. Let's not lose global audiences. Let's just play it neutral. That's why Elena ended up in a made-up kingdom with made-up traditions that felt Latin enough. Because specificity scares them. It forces them to actually learn something. To hire real consultants, to trust creators from those communities. And for a long time, they weren't willing to do that. And this is where it gets personal for me, because how are you going to create a show about Latina culture and not even let it breathe? Not even let it be proud or layered or messy or real? Instead, they packaged her in this clean, pre-approved Disney Junior box, gave her magical animals and pastel kingdoms and called it diversity, and that is what we call a marketing checklist. And let's not forget, Elena came out before Coco and Encanto. Before Disney had proof that stories like those could be wildly successful, so she became the test subject. The let's see how this goes prototype. They didn't give her the movie treatment because they weren't ready to believe a Latina-led story could carry one. Then Coco dropped. Then Encanto took over TikTok. And suddenly, oh, now it's okay to go all in? Suddenly, Latino stories were profitable. Suddenly, they had emotional depth. Suddenly, they were important, and Disney was all over it. But where was that energy when it was Elena's time? Imagine how many little girls watched Elena thinking she was going to be their Moana, their Elsa, their Cinderella, and then the world just forgot her. Imagine how many people worked on that show with love and care and intention, only for it to be treated like filler content. What some people don't understand is that it's not just about cartoons, it's about what we choose to elevate, what we choose to remember, what we decide deserves legacy, and Elena deserved legacy. So yeah, Elena walked so they could run, but she deserved to sprint right along with them. Let me make this very clear. There was nothing wrong with Elena of Avalor. The problem was never the character, it was the investment behind her. Because if you actually watch the show, Elena was that girl. There was political conflict, kingdom drama, even magical warfare. She had to deal with betrayal, pressure, grief, family dynamics, all while being a teenager. But she wasn't put in front of global audiences. She wasn't backed with high-tier animation or Grammy-winning soundtracks. She had the ingredients to be great, but none of the tools. It's like watching someone cook a gourmet meal using a camping stove and a plastic fork. You can tell the recipe is fire, but the support is non-existent. And honestly, that's the story for a lot of characters of color in media. They're forced to be 10 times better just to get half the visibility. Elena had to run a whole kingdom just to be remembered. Meanwhile, Sleeping Beauty slept through her whole movie and got a doll line, a castle, and a fireworks show. So yeah, the problem wasn't Elena. It was the way Disney handled her. They wanted her to prove herself, but they never gave her the platform to do it. So if you're someone who remembers Elena, hold on to that. Because she mattered. And if you never really knew about her until now, that's okay. Now you do. And if you made it this far, then you already know the real ones remember. Anyway, drop a comment if you ever watched Elena, and let's talk about who else Disney left behind. Because this isn't the last princess they slept on.